Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to a preview for our next geometry class. In geometry, we will be dealing with a lot of triangles, so I want to make sure that we are able to distinguish between what makes a triangle and what does not make a triangle. And we could do this by comparing the side lengths of any given triangle. So, below I state three lengths A, B, and C form a triangle if they satisfy all three inequalities below. So first, I give you some length for A, some other length for B, and a final length for C, where they are all arbitrary and could be anything. And we must be able to satisfy all three inequalities below, the first being A is less than B plus C, B is less than A plus C, and C is less than A plus B. We will do this via a visual proof, so we need to make sure that A is less than, or in other words, shorter than a length of B plus a length of C. And we can see that A is less than the length of B plus C, so the first inequality is satisfied. For the second inequality, we must make sure that B is less than the length of A plus another length of C. And we can see that the length of A plus C is much longer than the length of B. Therefore, the second inequality is satisfied. Finally, we need to make sure that the length of C is less than a length of A plus a length of B. And we can see that the length of A plus B is much longer than the length of C. Therefore, the third inequality is satisfied. And since they are all satisfied, all three inequalities are satisfied, they can make a triangle like the one below. We could also do this with numbers themselves, make sure that they satisfy these inequalities with math. And we will do this for some specific lengths, 3, 4, and 5, where A is 3, B is 4, and C is 5. First, we need to make sure that all three inequalities are satisfied. So we need to make sure that A is less than B plus C, that B is less than A plus C, and finally that C is less than A plus B. So now we just need to plug them in and make sure that they're true. So we need to make sure that A, which is 3, is less than B, which is 4, plus C, which is 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. So we could see that 3 is less than 9, so the first inequality is satisfied. For the next inequality, we need to make sure that B, which is 4, is less than 3, which is A, and C, which is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8, and now we need to ask ourselves, is 4 less than 8? And we could say yes, that is true. So the second inequality is satisfied. Finally, we need to make sure that C, which is 5, is less than A, which is 3, and B, which is 4. So we need to make sure that 5 is less than 7, and 5 is less than 7. So third inequality is satisfied, and we will say yes. This forms a triangle. Moving on. For some other lengths, 3, 2, and 6, we need to make sure where A is 3, B is 2, and C is 6, we still need to satisfy the same inequalities. A is less than B plus C, B is less than A plus C, and C is less than A plus B. Now we have to make sure that 3 is less than B, which is 2, plus C, which is 6. 2 plus 6 is 8, and we could see that, 3 is less than 8, so the first one is satisfied. Now we need to make sure that B, which is 2, is less than A, which is 3, plus C, which is 6. So we need to make sure that 2 is less than 3 plus 6, which is 9. 2 is less than 9, therefore, second inequality is satisfied. Finally, we need to make sure that C, which is 6, is less than A, which is 3, plus B, which is 2. And we could see that 6 is less, it says 6 must be less than 5. However, 6 is not less than 5. So the final inequality fails. So now we have to ask ourselves, does this form a triangle? And this does not form a triangle. So we'll say no. Since all three inequalities were not satisfied, we will say no, this cannot form a triangle. Now you try. For some lengths 5, 3, and 9, will they form a triangle? We need to make sure that to satisfy all three inequalities, A is less than B plus C, that B is less than A plus C, and that C is less than A plus B, where A is 5, B is 3, and C is 9. So now we need to start by considering A, which is 5, is less than B, which is 3, plus C, which is 9. Now we need to make sure that 5 is less than 12, and 5 is less than 12, so the first inequality is satisfied. Now we need to make sure that for B, which is 3, is less than A, which is 5, plus C, which is 9. 5 plus 9 is 14. 3 is less than 14, so the second inequality is also satisfied. Now we make sure for the final inequality that C, which is 9, is less than A, which is 5, plus B, which is 3. 9 is less than 8, which is, again, not true. 9 is not less than 8, so the last inequality fails, and we'll say no. This cannot form a triangle. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me next class. I will be looking forward to see you. Thank you. Have a good day.